here. I feel like I'm sitting in your living room just chatting with you.
You are. This is starting to feel like my living room. So, I am so happy that Katie Kelly from ABC News put us together,
Yeah, she's wonderful, and without her, we would have never met in this great big city. It's amazing. So thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie. And as they say, there are no chance meetings. So there's so much I want to learn about you. Could you please start with telling me a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. I'm a native New Yorker. I was born in the Bronx, and I've lived here a majority of my life, except for many stints overseas, shall we say. I am the second of 4 children. Came from a pretty traditional Italian family. I grew up with my mom telling me that everything and anything was possible, but don't tell your grandmother because she'll have a heart attack if she knows that you're going and doing all of this amazing stuff and getting educated, okay? Anybody else can relate to that? I spent a lot of my years upstate, growing up in the country, and I am so grateful for that because it gave me a grounding and a balance, to living in the city and having kind of that balance back and forth. I studied fashion, and I spent 20 plus years in the fashion industry, and when I left, I was running $100-something million business for a major corporation. I've worked all over the world. I've lived all over the world. But at heart, I'm just a girl from New York. I live in Brooklyn with my now husband. I finally gave in and got married in January. So
Congratulations.
Yeah. And I am the poster child for women in the late 40s. I am 48. Who can find love? I live in Park Slope with my husband, Val. And we have 2 amazing children. There are cats, Lily and Nico. And I have this amazing business that gives me the opportunity to work with women all over the world, I do speaking internationally on women in leadership and in business, on gender communication so that people know how to talk to one another, in the workplace and get things done. At the end of the day, it is all about creating opportunity for everybody and being able to get things done and get jobs made in this country and abroad.
I couldn't agree more. And, our topic this evening is rewriting your future by starting over. I feel like many women start their lives up with some idea, some even vague idea of what it is they want to do in this world. And some go happily about trying to get those things done. Others are not very clear and may accept opportunities along the way. Those opportunities may be things that we feel we need to do because we've got to pay our rent, we've got to take care of our bills, or maybe it's family, family values, or, just the way in which we feel things should be done at that time in our lives. Then life happens, and somewhere along the line, we have a loss of a relationship, we have to move away, we have to deal with an illness of ourselves or a loved one. There's a shift, there's a major shift. I really wanted to get an idea from you about some of your early experiences and also to have you go into the idea of how you might have been forced to change many things in your life because of those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that at age 13, I knew. By the time I was 13, I knew that I wanted a career that was going to bring me internationally. There was no 2 ways about it. My mother would just shake her head and be like, isn't New York enough? It's a pretty amazing place. I'm like, no, it's not enough. It's too small. It's too small. But I wanted this international career. I wanted to make my own money. I wanted this lifestyle, a certain lifestyle. And I was a very creative person, and I ended up in the fashion industry, and I was like, this is great. So all the ideals from the time I was 13 were rolled up into entering into this career and this life that I wanted, this income that I wanted, everything that I wanted. And then everything changed. Everything changed. I think that I'm one of those few people who did know what they wanted to do when they were younger, but life has a way of throwing you curveballs where you have to make adjustments and you have to make decisions. And probably the most important decision I made happened about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And it was actually two strangers who came into my life in one of the most ridiculously odd ways, but being here in New York, you'll get it, that totally turned my life upside down. I was riding on the subway on the F train from Brooklyn in, and I was going into my corporate job. And, here in New York, we wear black head to toe. Black head to toe, the sunglasses, the purse, the whole thing, sitting there. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to talk to anybody. I have my headphones on. Just leave me alone. I'm tired. I just want to get to the office. And standing in the doorway of this subway train were this elderly couple. And they were so beautiful. You ever see people that just absolutely capture your attention? You're like, who are they and what are they doing? And they were just so sweet. They were speaking to each other with such a loving tone. Like, he'd put his hand on her hand and he'd look into her eyes and he would speak gently to her. And I thought, listen, I enjoy being an independent woman, but God, I really wish that I could find somebody who would treat me like that, who would love me like that, clearly. And they had to be in their late 70s and 80s. Then they take out a subway map, right? This is a problem, right? Like, what is going to happen to these two little people? And I'm like, what? Where are they going? And they look a little confused. So I lean over and, they're about where you are. And I'm like, where are you going? Do you need help? And he says, well, we're going to 57th Street. And I said, okay, they're on the right train. They'll get there, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, this little voice says to me, East Side, West Side. These poor people are going to get chewed up if I don't help them. So I get up and I ask, East Side, West Side, I want to make sure you're going to get where you're going. And we have this exchange, and she looks at me, and she says, I can't hear. He can read lips. Talk to him.
Wow.
And the two of them had the most beautiful crystal blue eyes. And, we sorted out where they were going. And I turned around and I faced out of the train, and I thought to myself, okay, I did my good deed for the day. This is a good thing to do. And then I feel a tap on my shoulder, and it's him. And he says to me, where are you going? And I said, oh, I'm going to the office, but I'd rather actually be home in bed. Trust me, I'd rather be home in bed. And he smiled at me and he nodded. And he said, are you happy? What a simple question. Are you happy? And I thought to myself, it's like almost having your life flash before your eyes. I have a great apartment. I have a great job. I have, a lifestyle most people would kill to have, like I'm going through the list of the superficial stuff that I have. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, yeah, I'm happy. And he nods. He takes my hand and he said, the secret to life is always doing everything possible to make yourself happy and to be happy. Think about that. And it was like that moment when you realize that everything that you think was going to make you happy doesn't make you happy. So the train pulls into Union Square, 14th Street, which was not my stop. I get off, sit on the bench, and burst into tears and think, I don't know what I'm not happy about, and I don't know what I want, but I don't want this anymore. And it took me several months, but I quit my corporate job. And trust me, people wanted the job I had. And they thought I was crazy, as well as my family thinking I'm crazy. And that was a conscious choice that I made. But those two little people with the crystal blue eyes, they changed my life. They forced me to really come to terms with the fact that the things that I thought were making me happy were not making me happy.
Wow. That's an amazing story.
Oh, they were so beautiful, and I'll never forget them. Like, I can see them in my mind's eye because they changed my life. I call them my subway angels, and there are a lot of them here in New York. A lot of subway angels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that occurrence in your life that had you forced you to make changes.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say that, before I tell the force story, I'll say that, I did leave the corporate arena, obviously. It took me almost a year to do it, and I started my own business, and I didn't quite know what it was going to be, but all I knew is I had to get out. It was really coming to the point where it was my health. Like, I knew I had to get out. And it took me, it was years, a couple years of refining and still refining to figure out what I wanted to do and what message I was here to share. You know, it takes time to define the business that you're in and what it is that you want to share. So I need to just tell you that before I tell you this next piece. All my life, you know, people around me would have tragedy. They would have crisis. There would be things that would happen, and I would think, how does this happen to these people? You know, and why are they changing their whole lives because something has happened? Like, I never quite could put it together. Like, you understand, but you don't really completely understand when this is happening around you. And then I met Val, right? I met him about 3 years ago.
Val is your husband.
Val's my husband, my now husband. He'll always be my boyfriend. So I met my now husband, and we lived together for 2 years, and I said I never wanted to get married. I never felt it was important, and I never felt like I needed the formality of it. I knew he knew what we had and how we wanted to be in our lives together. And then finally he wore me down. If you ever meet him, he's very charming. He wore me down, and we got engaged in January, and then 9 days later he was diagnosed with cancer. And we knew that something was wrong, but we didn't know what it was. We did not know what it was, and there was about 6 weeks leading up to this point, but I mean, we didn't think it was cancer. And we found out that 74% of his bone marrow was taken up with cancer cells. That's a lot. That's a lot. And in the moment that we found out that he had cancer, we just didn't know yet what it was exactly, and they were preparing us for the worst. I just said to him, I can't believe that after all this time that the universe would take us away from one another. And that's a very real, very honest response to the situation. And I said, I will not accept it. And he said, I'm not going to accept it either. I'm not going to accept that we're going to be, you know, separated this early on in the process. And we had to make a choice that he was going to live, and we had to make a choice for his treatment immediately. But with that, it meant I had to make a choice in my life as well. So it's still very emotional.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Everything that I had planned for my business, again, had to go out the window. And I didn't know it at the time we were making the choice. You know, when somebody has cancer, they have to be cared for. And he was actually fully functional. It was actually pretty amazing. But there is still a lot that has to be done around caring for somebody who has a serious illness. I am somebody who always put my work first. My family, I love my family, but I would be, you know, another part of the world, and there would be a wedding or a bar mitzvah or whatever, and I wouldn't be there. So I had to make an adjustment in my own life to choose him over my work, and that was huge, and that's the truth. That is absolutely the truth. I don't know if anybody else here has experienced that, but I had to become consciously aware that I was making a choice for him and for our life and not for work. You know, at the end of the day, you're no good if you're broken when you're working, all right? So this situation of Val being diagnosed with cancer, and it was almost 15 months of treatment, and it ended only a couple weeks ago, was huge, and it completely disrupted my life, his life, our lives together, and our work. And there's a whole lot of fear that happens around this, and re-gearing that you have to do, and reassessment of your priorities of what's important. It is about accessing the reserve and power inside of you to, I don't want to say fight, because I find that that's almost a negative word in this context, but to stand up for what you need and get it done.